It's the second part of our crime battle on the Omaima Nelson case.
It's a story with murder, cannibalism, castration, and somehow much more.
In this episode, Sistas Who Kill.
And then we'll crown our crime battle champion. Da, da, da.
That's on this episode of So Much Crime.
So little time. Do you know what I hate?
What do you hate?
I hate waiting around and having nothing to do. Like right now, I'm waiting around to get the discussion started on this podcast, and it's so boring.
What could you do with that time?
I don't know. I have this inkling to go to patreon.com/so much crime, so little time, and maybe subscribe to their Patreon so that I could get maybe early release episodes. I wonder what else I could get.
You'd probably get some bonus content. I bet there's outtakes there
Do
too.
you think?
Yeah.
Outtakes would be so fun.
You know why I do it? I'm doing it right now just because
Why?
I really want to support the show, and this is a great way to do it.
Oh, that's kind. I'm just here for the lols, but whatever your reason, go to patreon.com/so much crime, so little time.
Welcome to So Much Crime, So Little Time. I'm Jeff.
And I'm Dee, and this episode is part 2 of our Thanksgiving crime battle on Omaima Nelson.
If you missed part 1, go check that out first. That is right before this one in your feed.
Today's episode is on Sistas Who Kill.
So here we're going to talk about how this show covered the Omaima Nelson case.
And then it's time to crown the champion.
There are links to both podcasts in our show notes. All right, Dee, before we get to talking about Sistas Who Kill and more Omaima Nelson, we already introduced the crime in our last episode. So we thought here we'd just take a minute and talk about something a little less grim than this super grim murder, but something that'll help you better understand the time period where this crime occurred.
I'm so excited. That's right, it's time to hop in the time machine.
We are going back to November 28th, 1991. All right, Dee, you look like you want to go first.
I just saw something and I hadn't prepared this, and now I've just realised what I get to talk about, and it's my favourite. Do you want me to go with a movie or a song? I've just brought 2 today. Movie and a song.
Let's do the movie first.
Okay. I'm so excited. I'm going to give you a tagline to this movie. This movie is like one of my favourite Christmas movies, and for those of you who cannot see me, I'm using quotations because it's not at all a Christmas movie, but I feel like my memories of Christmas in my house have I mentioned before in this podcast, I have 4 older brothers, so they got to rule the roost when it came to the TV, and we used to watch this movie quite a lot around Christmas time. Not Die Hard, which we also watched a lot around Christmas time.
I was hoping it was going to be Die Hard.
No, not Die Hard. Okay, so it's like one of my favorites. So, and I have some funny stories about it, but I don't think they're going to transfer very well to this. So, I'm going to give you a tagline from it. Sometimes the only way to uphold justice is to break the law.
That's
one.
It's a movie set at Christmas?
No, there's nothing to do with Christmas.
You just watch it.
It just reminds me of Christmas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
When I get overexcited about these things, you get lots of little tidbits that are so irrelevant.
Okay.
Okay. The next one. For the good of all men and the love of one woman, he fought to uphold justice by breaking the law.
This is a movie I might actually know.
Kevin Costner's in it, and Morgan Freeman, and
Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
Yes! It's like such a good movie. I love it. Love it so much. I'm so excited.
Also, Alan Rickman
Yes.
is in it, and I want to say Christian Slater is in it. And who plays Maid Marian?
Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio.
Tonio.
What a movie.
All right, I have 2 taglines. First one. Weird is relative. That's the harder one. Easier one. Creepy. Kooky. Spooky. Ooky. No? Tell you who's in it. Raul Julia. Angelica Houston. Christopher Lloyd. Christina Ricci as Wednesday.
The Addams Family?
Yeah, the Addams Family.
They didn't come out at Christmas, though, did they? They didn't come out in November.
Yeah, it did.
November?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they come out in, like, before Halloween?
I don't know. came out. That's when it came out.
Seems like a misstep on their part.
All right. You have a song?
Yes, but you will not get it. I get to describe something to you that's very funny.
Okay.
In Ireland, we had these puppets, this puppet duo called Zig and Zag. And Zig and Zag were from the planet Zog. Zig and Zag were from Zog.
Sure.
They were supposed to be like extraterrestrial twins. And they made their debut in 1987, but they brought out a song called Zigzaggin'. That was number one for like 1, 2, 3 weeks.
Wait, is this like a children's show?
Yeah, it's a children's show. It was very funny and very odd. But they were on a children's show and they brought out a song that went, I think it was 3 weeks. They spent 3 weeks at number one, just in and around the November 28th. But I couldn't find any of the lyrics to it because it's like obviously like such a random song. Nobody has thought to put the lyrics down. But it goes like, planet Earth is a groovy kind of place. Like it's this kind of weird.
You should perform more of this.
It's so funny, but like they're also like hilarious. I don't know. I feel like you need to know about this.
All right, send me the link. I'll listen to this. All right, the first one is a song that was released as a single on November 11th, 1991.
Mm-hmm.
I took my baby on a Saturday bang. Boy, is that girl with you? Yes, we're one and the same. Now I believe in miracles, and a miracle has happened tonight. But if you're thinking about my baby, it don't matter if you're...
Oh, Michael Jackson, Black or White.
Yeah.
I thought it was Michael Jackson from the very start, but yeah, that was good.
That's pretty
like
good.
that.
And then my other thing, I realized that 1991 was a great year for video games. So on March 7th, Street Fighter 2 as an arcade game came out. On August 23rd, in North America at least, and it came out different times in different places, different years in different places, the Super Nintendo came out and Super Mario World.
Hold on. Let's see. What year did you say it came out?
August 23rd, 1991.
It was released in the UK and Ireland in April 1992.
Okay.
For £150.
It was also like a year earlier in Japan. And then my last one, June 23rd, Sonic the Hedgehog on the Sega Genesis.
Sega!
That was the game of the year. All right, that is our time machine. All right, Dee, let's get to the crime battle.
Let us do it. So, Jeff, tell us a little bit about this podcast.
So, Sistas Who Kill, the description is joint best friends, Marat and, is it Taz?
Sure.
Join best friends, Marat and Taz, as they research and tell stories of Black women who kill. They discuss the crimes, the outcomes, and how Black women are treated differently in the justice system than their white counterparts. So the hosts are Marat and Taz. The show started in 2021. There are almost 200 episodes. Also 50,000 Instagram followers.
Oof.
They're big on Instagram. They usually episodes are about an hour each, and the episode we're talking about, the Omaima Nelson one, came out on November 27th, 2021.
Yeah, so let's just do a quick recap of the crime. We went into a lot of detail in our previous episode about this crime. We're not going to do that here. We're going to give a brief reminder and then we'll jump into any like additional information we found out in this episode that we wouldn't have heard in the previous one. So Omaima Nelson was an Egyptian woman who came to the US and married Bill Nelson in October 1991. 1 month after being married, she apparently murdered him, cut up his body, cooked parts of it, and maybe ate some. She was sentenced to 28 years in prison. She applied for parole on 3 occasions and it was denied. And I think is it her next? No, she's up for release. Like her sentence is going to be done in a couple of years.
In 2026.
2026?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That doesn't mean she'll get out.
So,
but yeah, she's eligible to get out in 2026.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so Jeff, do you want to start with anything new that we've heard here? Or do we want to just jump in and talk about how Marat and Taz dealt with this story differently and kind of additional notes that we heard throughout? That might be better.
Yeah, that sounds
The latter
good.
might be better.
Let's do that.
Okay, cool. Okay. Biggest thing, like what's your vibes?
Yeah, it's funny because these were 2 episodes about the same crime. They're both about the same length. And last time we had a crime battle, it was a single episode versus a double episode, which almost I feel like wasn't fair. But this one, the same amount of time, I feel like this one packed more information in. Like I feel like this one was everything that the last one had, plus more things. Some things that I didn't want to hear, but certainly some interesting details.
Oh, interesting. I don't know if we get different details here. I didn't see it as more. So the last one packed a lot in.
It did. It did. But like there were a couple of, I feel like, nuanced details to the story from like all parts of it, from her childhood to her like pre-murder days to her trial to her time in jail, that it covered a lot of the same ground. A lot of it was like the Venn diagram of these two episodes is heavily overlapping. But there were a couple things I think that just helped to me give a little bit fuller of a picture of what was going on.
Name one of those things.
Okay. I have two. Two things that I wrote down.
I said one. Name one.
All right. The fun one is Omaima was a great pool player and she hustled men. That was one of the ways in which she met these older men that she would end up in relationships with.
For me, that section, the part that I took out was them basically saying, for all intents and purposes, she was a sex worker.
Yeah. Okay. That was maybe the more relevant part.
Even though in the initial episode we heard that, you know, she jumped from man to man, there was a lot of, she would always be with a man who could take care of her. It was never noted, or at least I don't remember it being noted as overtly as, you know, for all intents and purposes, she was a sex worker.
Yeah, but she's also described in various places as a model, and I don't feel like we got much story about her modeling career. That I feel like that was mentioned, but not like that wasn't.
That was only mentioned in this one, I think.
Yeah, but it doesn't seem to be.
Sistas Who Kill.
Doesn't seem to be a big part of her life, or at least not part that gets talked about.
Yeah. I feel like at one point they were like, she should have gone into modeling. And then they were like, well, she was a part-time model and like a part-time nanny. Like, I kind of want to hear more about that because like, Jesus Christ, would I regret that decision?
Hiring her as a nanny. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of an interesting one. Part of me felt like they were a little bit more victim forward in this one. I feel like we heard like even just a snippet more about Bill and like how people perceived him. He was kind, he was bad. Like if you close your eyes and picture an older white Texan, like this is him. Like that's just who he was.
I don't know that I agree. I feel like we got more of a sense of that in the last one. Maybe I'm wrong.
I didn't.
Maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe I'm wrong.
We certainly got.
Why are we being?
We got more info on what happened to Bill after he died in this one.
Ooh, too much information. I think. I don't know. The way they formatted this, it was very much. I felt like it was like they're telling a story. It was a very. How do I describe it? Like even how they were talking about it was maybe a more elaborate story about the murder. They were told it as if it was true, and this is what's being told, and this is what unfolds. Whereas in Black True Crime, we're hearing it being like, and then she said, and they're like, oh, why did you say that? You're not making yourself look very well by saying that, or like, and now you're switching. It was never a case that her story was out in front, whereas this one they put it out in front.
Well,
does that make sense?
Sort of. Maybe. I think a big difference between these two shows is in this one, Marat and Taz both researched the crime and are kind of going back and forth recounting, like they're taking turns recounting parts of it. Whereas in the last one, we had one person who had done all the research and the other person who's more reacting to the research.
I kind of liked that a little bit though.
Like
the reaction, but then in a way the reaction is makes it like a little bit too, and it was one thing we discussed, like was it too playful and not enough shocking, or I don't know, not enough, I don't know what the word is.
Okay, so in Black True Crime it was Kayla and Kristen, and Kayla was the one who done the research and Kristen reacted to it. And I think something I liked about that was Kristen was sort of our proxy as the person learning about this crime. And so I could relate to Kristen's sort of like shock and just the way she kind of reacted to different elements of the story. Whereas in this one, I'm just hearing two different people tell me a story, which is good too. It's just different. I think it makes it feel very different.
Yeah. Did you prefer when they had both researched it?
No, I think I liked, so on this element, I liked the way Black True Crime did it better. I do think we talked about this in our last one. It is an issue of, did they not take it sort of seriously enough? Did they, which I don't know that they did. I think this one maybe felt a little bit more serious, even though both of these shows are a little jokey and a little more lighthearted, despite the horrific nature of the crime.
Yeah. I feel like this show, when Miranda has her talking more like about the jokey side, I don't know, it felt more removed from the crime itself or the victims themselves.
Wait, in Sistas Who Kill.
So, there was the discussion that Omaima had eaten the ribs with the sauce.
Yeah.
And then they go off and talk about like what they like their ribs as and like X, Y, and Z. But it wasn't like, I don't know. Ribs were a part of both of the podcasts. Both podcasts discuss ribs, but this discussion of ribs felt more removed from the fact that someone had eaten someone else's ribs.
I will say that this may have put me off eating ribs.
I mean, I'm not very into them, I have to say.
Well, I may not be anymore.
Fair.
Yeah. There's some other things that I thought were interesting about this one that we didn't have in the last one. There's a couple of segments at the end of this show.
I know, I love them.
So one of them was basically like, I didn't do it, but if I did, O.J. Simpson kind of thing. And then the other one was like the parole or no parole, which I thought was really clever. I thought that's a great idea for ending a discussion of a crime.
Yeah, it was a good way of bringing in like the what the fuck are you doing, like jovial side of things, but you are you are sectioning it off, being like, this is clearly more lighthearted side of the crime.
If I did it, I did want to ask you, like, is that disrespectful to the victim and the victim's family?
I mean, I don't know if either of these shows are considering that.
I think it's a clever idea, but if I'm a loved one of a person who gets murdered, do I want someone basically saying like, well, here's a better way to do that crime?
No. Part of me is like, if you're not into, is it disrespectful to the families? Yeah. I can't imagine anyone from Bill Nelson's side is listening to these podcasts. If you're his daughter, you don't want to listen to any podcast discussing your father's death.
Sure.
Murder.
I wouldn't.
You don't.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about this a little bit in our interview with Bill Huffman. Is this a branch of true crime that is problematic, or is there a place for it?
It's a genre. It's like it's its own little thing. There's obviously a market for it.
50,000 Instagram followers.
Yeah, there's obviously a market for it. Like, it's not my style, but I appreciate what they were doing. I appreciate all of the facts that they brought forward. They covered so much ground.
Yeah.
And I liked hearing some of the personalities come through. That's the positive end. Is it my style? No, it's not really. I still have a lot of questions after both episodes. I'd like longer tail slightly than a one episode murder. I want to know so much. Like, there's so much to this story that I would like to know. But that's not the aim of these podcasts.
No, these are very much like a get in, tell the quick story, get out. And yeah. From scrolling through their feeds, I don't think either one of these shows is a show that returns to crimes.
There's also like a number of details that were different between the two podcasts. I'd love to know, like, who's right here.
Well,
like small things, but I think small inaccuracies can sometimes lead you to believe that there are larger inaccuracies.
Yes.
But I don't know which side it's on. So for example, something like the way, was it Jose? What was your man's name that Omaima went to her friend and was like, help me, and he's like, sure thing, and then rang the police.
I don't remember his name, but I know who you're talking about. Yeah. The friend.
That guy, the friend. In the first one, they made a big point to say she offered him motorbikes, but not the 75 grand.
Yeah.
And in this episode, they were like, she offered him 75 grand.
Yeah, that story was there. Yeah, there were, and those kinds of things were kind of throughout these
Yeah.
two shows. There were definitely some facts that were different. So one thing about that, one thing I noticed was I feel like in Black True Crime, so it was Kayla who was the one who had done the research. It seemed like most of her research came from one source. And here they seem to be they didn't name their sources, I don't think, as much, but they seem to be referring to like researching multiple different sources, and they talked about some of their sources telling different versions of the story. And
Yeah.
that I actually really liked. Like I thought it's helpful to know that, okay, we don't know the true story, but here's a couple possible versions of it, and people don't seem to agree on that. So in that way, I thought that this show handled that much better.
Yeah, I do agree. It did seem like there was like kind of more research gone into it. I did love the singing. Like the bits where they'd randomly just sing. I thought that was funny.
That was nice.
That's the kind of lighthearted aspect of this one that I thought was different because it is removed. Like, you know, singing a line and then being like, oh, remember me in my prom dress or whatever. Like, it's not connected to the story.
Yeah.
So it's this lightheartedness in the middle of talking about like flesh hanging upside down or organs, whatever.
I do think so. All four of these hosts across these two shows, I thought all did a great job. I mean, generally, like just broad strokes, I think they were engaging. I feel like we got a sense of their personality. I think there were two hosts who were different from each other in both show. And I kind of appreciated how they both had different perspectives, different personalities, different voices. And in just listening to one episode, I was able to tell, like, okay, this is Murad, this is Taz. I kind of get a little bit more of each one's deal as different identities from each other, which is hard to do in an hour.
It's very hard to do in an hour.
Like
it is very hard to do.
How many people do you think can't tell which one of us is which? Probably a lot, right? Like
I'd say so.
Yeah.
Basically the same voice.
Yeah.
This was definitely, last thing, it was definitely a more gruesome podcast. Some of the details I found interesting. They went into a little bit more detail of what it means to say there were signs of intercourse or
like how the rape kit works.
Yeah, or rape. Exactly. It's actually not something I even thought of before. I always just heard it, you know, rape kit, and it was signs of this, signs of that. Like I never really thought about it. And they do go into some interesting elements there, and then they went into some elements where it was just too much for me.
Yeah.
It felt like there was no need. Both podcasts spoke about how it was deemed that this could not have been Omaima's first time dismembering a body.
Yeah.
But this podcast went too far with that, I think.
I think it went too far. I also think this one left out a couple of things. I think this one, in general, went too far, did a lot more than the other one did. But this one also, I noticed they didn't spend as much time talking about a couple of things like the hands that was in the last one. So, but yeah, there was definitely more like gore and gruesomeness in this one. Do you want to talk about how we crown a crime battle champion?
Go for it.
All right. So to choose our crime battle champion, I came up with sort of a arbitrary, but I think thoughtful list of categories to assign points and then decide. And maybe we assign points and then decide, regardless of those points, one wins or the other ones. But I can tell you mine, and then, or maybe we can go category by category and see who says what. Let's do it that way. Okay, so first one is research. So who researched it better? Whose research seemed better?
Okay.
Who do you give a point to?
Sistas Who Kill?
Yeah, me too. Definitely. Again, and we talked about this, but they felt like they used multiple sources. They contextualized their research better, whereas Black True Crime seemed to primarily be from one source. Okay, next up. Yeah. Easy to follow. Which one was easier to follow?
Oh, sorry, I had to choose one?
Okay. Well, in this one, I actually gave them both a point. I thought both were easy to follow.
Oh, so did I. I thought you said that I was allowed to do that.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay. They both get a point for easy to follow.
Yeah. Yep.
All right.
Ding, ding.
Volume of information.
I think we're both getting points here. I think there's a lot of information floating around here. This is a complicated case.
Okay.
Story.
You know, so this is one where I was leaning towards Sistas Who Kill, but I think after talking about it, I think you're right. I'm going to give them both a point.
No.
What?
No, you originally like said 0 to 1. You can't just change it up because you know that I'm right and you were wrong.
Okay, fine. We'll move on.
Okay.
All right. Next up is kind of victim sensitivity. What do you think here?
I said 0 to both of them.
Wow. Well, I gave half a point to Sisters Who Kill.
You told me I couldn't do halves.
I lied.
Oh my God. You were just moving these goalposts all over the place. I specifically said, are you going 0 or 1 or can I give a decimal? And you said 0 or 1. Like this happened.
Yeah, you're right. But I wasn't really looking at my notes.
Okay.
All right. And then last one.
Who did you give it to?
Sisters Who Kill. Do you disagree?
No, I'm not going to fight over a half. We don't
fight over half a point. All right. And then last up is sort of overall show structure and creativity of the show. I gave a point to Sisters Who Kill for the if I did it and the parole or no parole bits, which I don't think there was an equivalent to that in Black True Crime.
I also had the same. I thought it was kind of cute. I like the little endings, the additional little segments there. We love a segment.
Love a segment.
And I appreciate a segment, you know?
What's your point total?
Okay. So, Black True Crime comes out with a... Was that a good drum roll?
It was a drum roll.
Of sorts.
Of sorts.
3 points.
Okay.
What's your Black True Crime
2 points.
total? Ooh, 5 points. Out of a possible 12?
Wait, what?
Oof.
Oh, you were adding them together. Okay.
6 plus 6 equals. Sisters Who Kill, I have a total of 5 points.
5 points.
You have some sort of random half point in there.
4.5.
So 9.5. So the winner is
Sisters Who Kill.
Sistas Who Kill.
All right. Congratulations to Sisters Who Kill, Marat and Taz.
True.
I feel like honorable mention to Kayla and Kristen with Black True Crime.
I mean, I didn't hate it.
I think they definitely get a participation award.
Oh God, I don't know if they're gonna like
Okay, they get a silver medal.
Jeff, I was thinking though, the next time we do this crime battle, which I really enjoy a crime battle, but the next time we do a crime battle, I think we should switch it up. I think you need to listen to one episode first, and I need to listen to the other episode first, and then we need to swap. And then we discuss, because I wonder if we are, this is the second champion who's been the second episode we listened to. And I wonder, is there some sort of bias there?
I like your data-driven approach to this. Yeah, let's do it. All right, so when we come back with another crime battle.
Data.
What did I say?
Data.
What's the difference? I understand.
Data.
I will say, if anyone out there has other shows they would like us to do a crime battle on, other cases, really these come from a case.
Yes, indeed. They come from a case.
Yeah, if there's a case that we want to talk
backwards.
about that's covered by multiple shows, it's a great way to talk about 2 shows. Hey, Dee, all this time, this whole episode,
Yeah.
you know what you could have been doing while we're just talking about ribs and
Google and shit.
yeah, you could have been on patreon.com/so-much-crime, so little time.
Ooh, interesting. But if I got there, what can I do?
First of all, you should go there right now, because even if you don't want to sign up, even if you don't want to give us any money, which I don't know why you wouldn't, but let's say you don't, you can listen to little clips of the clips, and
Clip?
get a snippet of what kind of content we put there. It's episodes that come out early, it's bonus content, it's outtakes, and you can see it all for free. You can become a free member, or
I don't even have to pay. That's pretty cool.
you don't have to pay. But if you do pay just a small monthly fee, you get full access to all of this extra content. You also support the show, which is really awesome.
That's so cool. And if coming up to Christmas, you're looking for a really cool Christmas present for someone, you can gift them membership.
You can do that. One other thing, aside from the Patreon, a great Christmas gift is to tell someone you love about this show. The other thing I want to mention is, and this is something I learned from Sisters Who Kill, leave some comments on Apple, on Spotify. Comment on this show. Comment on whatever show that you listen to from So Much Crime, So Little Time. That really helps other people to discover the show. Give us a rating. If you've already given us a rating, leave a comment. Tell us what you liked about the show. Tell us what you didn't like. Whatever you want to say. Leaving those comments really boosts us in the algorithm and is really helpful to us. So we definitely appreciate that.
Thank you. Jeff, what's up next?
Next week, we have some special Thanksgiving week treats.
We're re-releasing our most popular very first episode. This is preview of Inside the Crime on the Una Linsky case. It's got some new special content for those of you who have already listened to it. There will be something new there.
And then we're also going to share a little bit from that Patreon vault that we keep talking about. We keep talking about Patreon, and you're probably wondering, it's so hard to go to patreon.com/so-much-crime so little time. So we're just going to put some of that in a regular feed so you can hear some of the things and get super excited about it. So then you go over to Patreon and sign up. So it'll be free. Anyone can listen to it, but hopefully you'll love it so much you go and sign up.
That's on the next So Much Crime.
So Little Time.
So Much Crime, So Little Time is a production of MimeGov Media. The executive producer is Paxton Calariso. Our associate producer is Blythe Ty. Theme music was composed by Vyacheslav Starostin. If you haven't done it yet, please subscribe to this show in your podcast app. Don't forget to give us a 5-star rating and a review. Even better, tell your friends. To join the discussion, look for us on social media. Check out the show notes for all the links. Thanks for listening.